This video is brought to you by Patreon provider Nathan.
Hello and welcome dear viewers, and welcome back to the channel. We're clearly checking out a mount from American Rifle Company, or ARC for short. I reviewed their M10 rings quite some time ago, and I like them so much that they actually have a permanent home on my CZ457 Precision. This M-brace mount was graciously sent in by Patreon provider Nathan, so Nathan, thank you very much. All the information you're going to need to know is right here on the side. That's it. In fact, they shipped this box as is with just a shipping label on it, which is why I'm not showcasing the top of it to give away any information. I'm not going to dox them. Now this clearly illustrates their M-brace rings, which we'll talk about momentarily, but the most important piece of information that we need here are the torque settings, which is scope clamp screws and rail clamp screws, 55 inch-pounds. 55 inch-pounds is a lot. So what does that mean? Well, Nathan had actually reached out to Vortex in regards to this because he is putting a Vortex product inside of this mount, and Vortex said just run whatever ARC recommends. So there's your answer. So one would then assume that this thing might be pretty robust and well built if this thing is designed to handle 55 inch-pounds of torque on the top screws and the bottom. Well, gauging this thing with first impressions, I'd have to say it is pretty beefy. It's also quite heavy. At just over 11.6 ounces, I don't think this would be the proper mount for you and your hunting setup. But this is not designed for your hunting setup. This is designed more for your PRS, precision, long range, heavy recoiling rifle. If you're wondering how this compares to a spur, these are both in 34mm, the spur easily wins in the weight department at more than 3.5 ounces lighter. Now, these two could easily be considered competitors. They both do the exact same thing. They both have bubble levels, even though I don't think the ARC comes with it. And you know what? No one would judge you if you thought that these two are direct competitors. But spur mounts are upwards of $400. That's a lot of coin. This ARC M-brace mount comes in at $280 and is American made. That's not that much money when you really sit down and look at what you're getting. If you're unfamiliar with the American Rifle Company, you can buy directly from them, which I recommend because they have everything available right then and there. But they also offer any option you could ever ask for. Everything from 1 inch up to I think 40mm on your tube diameter. They offer multiple different styles of cant, and they also offer a ton of different heights. So you could really get either their M10 rings, their M-brace rings, or this M-brace mount exactly how you want for your current setup. And because this M-brace mount has options for add-on accessories, you could really outfit this however you want. The one thing I wish this had was maybe a mounting system on one of the side pieces over here. This way, similar to the spur, you could mount a 45-degree offset RDS if you wanted to go that route. If you want to do a 45-degree, the easier way would probably be running the spur. With all that being said, let's start at the bottom and work our way up. You can clearly see we have one lock block in the middle to go into your Picatinny rail, and 4 gigantic through screws to really clamp this thing down. Another thing I really like is that the claws are full length on both sides. You're going to have a ton of engagement with this thing. And if you're wondering how long the claws are, you can clearly see it's a little bit over 3 inches. In case you lose the booklet or you buy one of these secondhand, torque settings are laser engraved on the claw. Now I'm not going to remove the claw all the way, but you can see just how nice everything is machined on this. And I'll get ahead of myself, there are no machining marks that I can see. And a lot of these tight radiuses in here require a pretty long tool to get in there to mill that out. So the fact that everything on this looks so far flawless in the machining department, which is a testament to ARC's attention to detail. To the keen-eyed viewer, you will note that the claw and the main body of the material is anodizing slightly different, but the same can be said for the clamshell rings up on top. It's not a concern whatsoever of mine, it's just something to take note of. The anodizing is, however, done very well on both sets, but the body is a little rough. You could see the nail will get cut, but on top, not so much. It's a lot smoother. I wonder if they do this on purpose to prevent it from gripping so much on the scope when you torque this down to prevent rotational. And in fact, that's one of the main reasons why I like my ARC rings, the M10s, because when I set that up and you get everything perfectly twisted and canted, you lock it up and nothing rotates. In fact, ARC goes as far as calling it a non-margin grip, meaning that the tolerance on this is super precise. As long as the scope that you're putting inside of it is super precise, you shouldn't have anything to worry about. Let's now take a closer look at these clamshells to see how they operate. As one could safely assume, you open these up, you put the scope in there, you close these up, you torque them down. 55 inch-pounds is a lot, but if ARC is saying that's their recommendation, then that's what I would absolutely go with. If you're really concerned, maybe go a little bit lighter, but they recommend it for a reason. If you go any lighter and your scope starts to walk through the ring, you could damage your scope's finish or the mount, and then you're going to be upset. And then ARC's going to be like, hey, did you torque down enough? And you're going to be like, no. And they're going to be like, tough luck. But if you really do damage your scope tube, I'm sure ARC will take care of you, as well as hopefully the manufacturer from the optic. Now, you might also notice that these rings, very similar to the ARC M10 rings that I reviewed, these hardened stainless steel pins are walking out. Now, this is normal. Do not fret about this. I don't know why they just don't machine the outside hole a little bit smaller for a slight press fit to not have these pins walk out, but they walk out. Some people I know stake them. I wouldn't do that. I would just walk the pin out or drive the pin out ever so slightly using a very small Allen key, for example. I would put a small drop of blue Loctite, ever so small, so this way it only goes into the cap itself, not to the body or through both, but just a little drop, and then push it in if you're really worried about it. However, once you lock this up, guess what? There's going to be tension on these. They're not going to go anywhere. Another thing you will notice on these is that the insides are ribbed for your pleasure. I believe they do this to actually give you more surface area on the scope tube. If these were just fully flat, when you put them on a tube and the tube's not 100% perfect, you're going to hit on high spots. Here, it should equal out the force a little bit. And as far as how it looks mounted on a rail, there you go. It's pretty chunky, but this thing is very heavy. I do like that you have a really big flat surface mount here, so you could mount whatever sort of accessories you want here, but there's enough of an angle that if you have a 90-degree bolt on a bolt action, it should clear this hopefully fairly well. Now, usually I will mount up the scope before we go down to the garage to check out the tracking test, or in this case, the re-zero ability of this mount on the rail. I usually do that off camera because it takes so long, but with ARC and these clamshell style clamps that they have, makes it so fast and easy that I can do it right in front of your eyes in under a minute. Now, granted, I'm not going to level this right here, right now. We're going to do that together on camera, so this way you can see exactly what we're on about and hopefully see if these clamshells prevent the optic from twisting once we get it perfectly lined up. However, if you are curious to see how fast it is to set this up, we're already done. Welcome to the Pleasure Dome. Mount is torqued to the rail at 55 inch-pounds. The scope is currently loose inside the rings. I will showcase this by ever so slightly ruining my perfect alignment, all for your pleasure. I'm going to get this as close as I can to perfect right there. As you can see, everything lines up flawlessly. And all I'm going to do is snug them up, front and rear, and then torque them to 50 inch-pounds. Front is snug, rear is snug, front getting torqued. Oh, that's a lot. That's a lot for a ring. Rear is now torqued. So, let's see how well. It very clearly settled a little bit, and it did slightly twist. But honestly, ladies and gentlemen, that ain't anywhere near as bad as it would be if you had 4 or 6 screw top caps. Anyway, what we're really here for now is to see how well the mount returns to zero. I'm going to give the anti-rotation of the scope a pass because I really only had the screws in there finger tight where it was. Ideally, I should have stepped it down, but going from basically snug, which is probably 10 inch-pounds, to 50 is a bit of a jump. However, we're going to do the exact same thing with the base. I'm now going to loosen this up and see where it goes. As you can clearly see, it's loose. I'm going to push forward and torque these down. As you can see, we are very, very close. We're about half a click, or 0.05 of a mil. One more time.
beautiful. One more time for good luck. That is what I want to call a near perfect performance. I'm going to say near because you can see we're favoring the left side of that line ever so slightly. However, with this mount, you're going to set it on your rail and you're going to absolutely forget about it. This mount is so far living up to the hype.
So now that we're back up on the reviewing table, let's undo these rings and see, or these caps rather, and see if there's any damage to the scope itself and or if the scope will move. 50 inch-pounds is a lot. It's very nerve-wracking to have to torque it down that tight. But as you can see, there's no damage to the tube itself, and it pops right out. Now notice it did require a little bit of force to come out, but that's because these are very tight tolerance machined rings, or at least faces. So this way you know that you're gonna have a perfect fit in between this. Now this optic has been used and abused like a red-headed stepchild. I can't even tell you the amount of rings and mounts this thing has been in over the years, but no new marks and no dents or anything like that. Everything feels cylindrical and basically perfect. Unfortunately, however, there is a bit of a casualty. You can see under this head right over here on the claw, it dug into the aluminum. I torqued this down 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I did double the torques from the beginning, and I continued that all the way to the end. And as you saw, this thing returned to zero extremely well. What that tells me is this is extremely well machined and very true. This is just a little bit of an annoyance. It doesn't make sense to me why ARC didn't put little washers in between this. It would just be that much nicer of an overall product. If I was to own one of these, I would absolutely spec out small steel washers for this so that never ever happens. Plus it should torque up a little bit easier. But I just said something. If I was to own one of these, and you know what? If I was trying to build a super precise rifle where everything was going to be rigid and be of the highest quality, and I didn't care about weight, key point there, weight, this is probably going to be my go-to mount. Simply because for the $280-ish that you're going to spend on one of these, you get it, like I said, in any flavor you want, any height, any cant, any size, diameter tube. You could run any type of accessory off this thing. They're just beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. However, if weight is one of your concerns, you can always buy the M10 rings or the M brace rings. In fact, if you buy either of those sets of rings, you'll save $100. But I feel ARC really missed a great opportunity with their M brace rings. You see, the M10 rings are very sleek, very svelte, lightweight, beautiful, functional rings. The M brace rings utilize the more modified, newer design of the M brace mount, which is great, but they do not offer the accessories capabilities as the M brace mount. ARC, if you're listening, why don't you incorporate that into the rings? Because maybe someone's trying to build a lightweight hunters. Maybe someone has to have it offset. Maybe someone has a different style pick rail. You never know. I would love that to be an option because as is right now, you have the M10 rings and the M brace rings, which as near as makes no difference, almost identical with the exception of weight. There's like an ounce difference. The M brace rings are a little heavier, but again, they don't utilize this system, and that I feel is a miss on ARC's behalf. However, with all that being said, I absolutely adore this thing, and I would love to be able to require one of these on a precision build in the future. Unfortunately, I don't see that happening anytime soon because I just don't have the need for such a truly capable mount. If you're on the fence about purchasing one of these, just jump. Head first, straight over, close your eyes, and just enjoy what I consider to be a truly magnificent mount. A huge thank you to Patreon provider Nathan for sending this in for review. I love getting my hands on high quality components like this, especially when they're made in the US, because it really warms the cockles of my heart, and it should for you as well. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching. As always, see you again next time.
And a huge thank you to my Patreon providers and my Subscribe Stars subscribers. Without you, this truly wouldn't be possible. If you'd like to support my channel but don't want to join either of those, I completely understand. But you could still help by using my affiliate links in the description below, and or like, share, and subscribe as always. Again, thank you very much.